Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to round one of the 2020 YugiTuber Grand Championship. It's that time of year again where all your favorite content creators get together and play each other in a absolutely clusterfuck of a tournament, but that's what we like to see. So round one is going to be the Cross-Banlist tournament. I'll go ahead and explain that in a little bit here, but before I do, I need to introduce our co-commentator, as always, the one, the only, you know him, you love him, Mr. MBT Yu-Gi-Oh! Joseph Rothschild. Joseph, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm very frustrated that this tournament is not going to be just Adamantipator and Eldritch Mirrors. What I imagine is the most fun you can possibly have playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure that's exactly what the audience wants to see. But no, what we're doing is for each round of the 2020 YugiTuber Grand Championship, there's a different deck building stipulation in place. Round one is the Cross-Banlist Round as deemed by the Wheel of Fate. So each player has been assigned a particular year. In this case, TeamSamuraiX1 has the year 2006, and John Moore here, Mr. House of Champs, has the year 2004. And they have to basically pick a deck from that time frame with the Bandless stipulations in mind and play to see who ends up on top. Some of these matches might be completely one-sided, but that's the fun of it when you leave it all to chance for the wheel. What do you think about this, Joseph?
Well, I've been having a lot of fun playing some alt formats that are specifically focused on like 2004, 2006 Yu-Gi-Oh! And wow, there were a bunch of really strong spells and traps in these years, and a bunch of really bad monsters. Zaborg is just about the most powerful thing legal in the format, and cards like Vanity's Fiend, while they're killer now, basically don't do anything against opponents playing similar strategies. It's just a different kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Entirely.
I think it's going to be so fun, though, just to measure the power of some of these decks. So we actually see here that there was a change of heart activated by House of Champs here, but it looks like TeamSamuraiX1 wanted to fire off this Trap Dust Shoot before we got the chance to do so. So Trap Dust Shoot, we're going to see a lot of ban cards this tournament for sure. Trap Dust Shoot, you activate if your opponent has 4 or more cards in the hand, look at their hand, select a monster card from it, and return that card to the owner's deck. So Sam opting to get rid of John's Magical Scientist. We're going to see Change of Heart take control of Magician of Faith, which then gets flipped up, adding Change of Heart back to John Moore's hand here, so basically losing no advantage. But the problem is here, if he has no way to get rid of that Magician of Faith, it's just going to switch back to Sam, and John's just going to set a card and pass here.
That's hilarious. I don't know what the idea was behind Change of Hearting the Magician of Faith. That's a classic GOAT play, though. Usually you follow it up with a Tribute Summoned Monarch, and Jinzo is a great one.
Yeah, Jinzo being one of the big heavy hitters of these older formats. It's a 2400 body, so it's pretty difficult to get over, but more importantly, it shuts down all those back row that are lingering in these decks. These decks play anywhere in the range of, like, you know, maybe 5 to 8 trap cards. Some of the most powerful trap cards of back in the day include cards like Ring of Destruction, Mirror Force, Torrential. There's so many good cards, so it's really cool to see. We're going to see a Shining Angel get summoned here from House of Champs. That is the good old tutor where if it's destroyed by battle, you get to special summon a light monster with 1500 attack or less from your deck in face-up attack position. So John just setting that, or normal summoning this and passing turn, wanting to not set it to get hit by something like, let's say, Nobleman of Crossout, perhaps. And so Sam's gonna have to deal with this. Here comes Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer now from Team Samurai. That's going to deny banishing, but also is going to get rid of any of House of Champs' cards in the graveyard if it inflicts battle damage. You get to see so much of Yu-Gi-Oh's history in this game. I love it.
Yeah, the Recruiters are such cool cards. It's unfortunate that they're just too slow nowadays to accomplish anything, but a lot of these really toolbox decks from like 2004, 2006 very much relied on cards like Shining Angel in order to pressure the opponent with very specific outs. You know, that Warrior Lady could have taken care of the Jinzo and turned on whatever the back row is. As you mentioned earlier, the back row available in this format is not only absolutely bonkers, it's also pre-errata. So Ring of Destruction can kill, for example. I'm trying to think what other trap cards might have been changed in recent years.
Imperial Order isn't on both players' turns. That's another one. There are going to be some things here. Here comes the Nobleman from TeamSamuraiX1, getting rid of that Sinister Serpent, just a recursive threat, and a Breaker, the Magical Warrior. This is going to be, yeah, this is exactly game if this goes through.
Wow, and with the priority to keep the counter on the field, just denying any chance for that set back row to be activated. Apparently, it must have been a trap card because it looks like HOC is going to 0 and game 2.
Yeah, so game 1 gets taken by Team Samurai X1. So it's cool that, you know, even though this is older Yu-Gi-Oh!, that game still went relatively quick, all things considered.
Yeah, Monarch specifically has a lot of really powerful blowout cards. You know, Jinzo is extremely strong, but so is Mobius, so is Zaborg. Depending on the year, so is Reza. Occasionally, so is Vanity's Fiend. There's just a lot of single tribute monsters that end the game on their own, much like an extremely powerful boss like Masterpiece would have in something like 2018.
Now, you see that House of Champs did draw his 6th card at the start of his turn. That is not how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is played now, but back in the day, you were able to do that. So if anyone was assigned a year prior to, I believe, 2015, so 2014 and prior are allowed to draw their 6th card at the start of their turn. So just a way, because these older decks do get really outclassed by some of the newer ones, kind of gives them a little bit of a fighting chance. That was something that we debated for the rule set, and that's what we're going to see here. So House of Champs, just with a T set here, we're going to see a normal summon of DD Warrior Lady, just prime removal back in the day, only 1500 attack, but able to just banish, but a Mirror Force from House of Champs. He does not want that card to get banished.
Yeah, a lot of the time, keeping a monster on field is extremely important. You know, if it's something like a Sinister Serpent or a Sangan or a Recruiter, obviously you care very little, but a DD Warrior Lady threatens those cards like no other. You know, being able to banish whatever that set card is potentially turns off a significant amount of the things that would otherwise give you trouble, and so fiending the Mirror Force off of a single normal summoned monster, wow, that's choice.
And here's one of the most powerful banned cards in existence. Confiscation. Pay 1,000 life points, look at your opponent's hand, select a card, and discard that card. In other games, this card is very, you know, fine, but in Yu-Gi-Oh!, there's a reason this card is banned.
I don't know. You think of other games where an effect like this is legal. Things like Thoughtseize have been extremely playable in alternative card games. It turns out hand control is just really, really strong, and here ripping what would have, I think, been an OTK otherwise.
Yeah, can we talk about the fact that Sam hit Magical Scientist in both games? First with Trap Dust Shoot in Game 1 and now Confiscation in Game 2. That is just
sometimes
so
hand control gets there.
And here is what I would probably say is the most powerful Yu-Gi-Oh! Card in existence, Painful Choice. People who don't know what this card is, select 5 cards from your deck and show them to your opponent. Your opponent selects one among them and adds that card to your hand, and you discard the remaining cards to the graveyard. There's basically no good outcome with this card whatsoever, and we're going to get to see that in action here. Looks like John is going to dump Harpy's Feather Duster, Heavy Storm, Graceful Charity, Pot of Greed, and what's the 5th one? Confiscation. So any of these are utterly terrible.
I think you're probably picking Confiscation, but if that set card is a Magician of Faith, how much does it really matter?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think you give him any of the draw cards. The back row, you might give him Heavy Storm or Duster depending on what the rest of your hand looks like. Like, if you want to keep what's in your hand, you don't give him Confiscation. It looks like he's picking the Confiscation, though, so he must not care what's in his hand. Sam did set 2 cards, so whatever he cares about might already be taken care of. We're going to see House of Champs fire this Confiscation now, and we're going to see what he picks out of Sam's hand. Only 2 cards to pick from, so probably not the most devastating, but we'll see when this card gets sent. There goes a Cyber Dragon, one of the most iconic cards of the 2006 era, pretty much bringing an end to GOAT format.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing 2006, you are doing it to play Cyber Dragon, you know? This card not only revolutionized the way the game was played then, but has revolutionized card design, period, from that point on. A lot of people don't remember, there was a time when the normal summon mattered immensely, and this was the first readily available card that specialed itself for no cost.
And now we're seeing House of Champs flip up that set monster that he didn't want to get banished by DD Warrior Lady, and it was a Sangan. This is another pre-errata card, but on attack declaration, Call of the Haunted is going to be used to resurrect this DD Warrior Lady, walling up and not only preventing Sam from taking damage here, but representing a threat that means that DD Warrior Lady could take out Sangan here, and it looks like John's just going to force the issue and just force Sam to get rid of his Warrior Lady by banishing his own Sangan. Now in main phase 2, he's going to be able to set, and it looks like he's just going to pass the turn back over to Sam, it looks like.
And if you're Sam, you're extremely happy about that. I mean, that's what you wanted anyway. What would it have been that was set if not something like a Sangan to prompt a Mirror Force out of John? I mean, it just ended up in the best possible scenario for you, and a Graceful Charity to follow up seems pretty good.
Yeah, this is, again, we're just going to see some absolute haymakers, not just in this round, but in every single round of the YugiTuber Grand Championship. This is going to be a bloodbath. Graceful Charity off the top. We're going to draw 3. We're going to discard a Tsukiyomi as well as a Spirit Reaper. Again, all these cards were like on the ban list at some point or another, if not most of them. We're going to see Kaiku come down, attack into DD Warrior Lady. That's going to get banished, so both players getting relatively low on resources here. And at this point, it could really be anyone's game until John has that Mirage of Nightmare to turn the tide here.
So Mirage of Nightmare is a weird card. Yes, it's extremely powerful, and in the modern metagame, it being legal would just absolutely ruin the format. But there's not dangers, there's not dark worlds, you know, there's not too much you're really afraid of aside from the free pluses. Yes, the card is broken, but I don't think it is an immediate auto win.
Yeah, let's talk about, for anyone who doesn't know, Mirage of Nightmare is a continuous spell that reads once per turn during your opponent's standby phase. Draw cards until you have 4 cards in your hand. If you do, during your next standby phase after that, randomly discard the same number of cards you drew. So this card is just an absurd way to churn through advantage. It is so powerful. Again, like you said, a lot of these cards, not just Mirage, would pretty much break the current metagame, and there's so many different ways to abuse it. But we're going to see what happens here. So, looks like standby phase for Sam. John is going to draw 2 cards here, and this is why this card is banned 100%.
It's kind of crusty because Mystical Space Typhoon activates or interacts with this in a very bad way. You know, you don't want to give your opponent free draws. We see just a pass, and if you're at parity and one player is drawing cards, yeah, there it is. Wow, enjoy your free cards.
Yep. So, Mystical Space Typhoon destroying the Mirage of Nightmare in the draw phase before it has the chance to discard the cards out of House of Champs' hand. So that means he gets to keep everything, and now we get a Premature Burial off the top from that draw as well. So now Premature Burial is going to target Magical Scientist, and like you said earlier, we now might get to see the opportunity for House of Champs to resolve this Scientist. Let's see if it happens.
Alright, so Magical Scientist is a supremely old card that can literally never be brought off the ban list. It allows you to pay life points to special level 6 or lower fusion monsters. Now, the fusion monsters cannot attack your opponent's life points directly, and they go back to the extra deck at the end of the turn, but it ends up not mattering for a reason I hope we're about to see.
Right, so Ryu Senshi coming down out of the extra deck for Magical Scientist. This is a card that can actually negate the effects of normal trap cards by just paying 1,000 life points. And this is very good because a lot of the powerful trap cards in this format were normal trap cards. You know, Ring of Destruction, Mirror Force, all these types of things. And this also does kind of pave the way to allow you to do other plays as well. And we're going to tribute, as a matter of fact, for Dark Magician of Chaos pre-errata, mind you.
Alright, so I don't know if they have the pre-errated version on here, but for those of you unfamiliar, the old Democ would activate immediately, putting a spell card from your graveyard back into your hand, and there was no hard once per turn on it either.
Correct, yeah. So Democ on summon would add a spell card back to your hand, which is why it was so powerful and why it was ultimately errated later on. Again, I think it probably could have been not errated and power creep would have just taken its course anyway. Again, not once per turn, like you said. It also has the secondary effect that is not as relevant, but still pretty relevant, where it banishes opponent's monsters after damage calculation if it battles, and that's very good against these Chaos decks who rely on, you know, effects triggering the graveyard or wanting that Chaos synergy. Just an absolute beast of a card. We're going to get Heavy Storm back out of the graveyard, which was sent there from Painful Choice, remember, and now Heavy Storm can just wipe the back row, and we're going to see if Sam has any response here.
Wow, extremely strong. I'm gonna respond with Return from the Different Dimension. Wow! So half the life points immediately go to the Netherworld, and we'll bring back Kaiku and DD Warrior Lady, I believe. Yep,
this card is banned for a reason, allowing you to bring back all of your monsters that are banished, or in the case of this card, before banished existed, removed from play. In this case, we're seeing it used defensively. It's typically a very offensive OTK tool, but for TeamSamuraiX1, we're going to just wall up, not take any damage from Democ during the end phase. All those threats are going to get banished. We also did see Sam losing out on a Torrential Tribute here, which is unfortunate. I think he was just trying to hold out for as long as he possibly could so that he could potentially just get maximum value, but did get punished there a little bit. But D-Mach is powerful for a reason. But Sam did end up having the answer, though, in Smashing Ground, one of the biggest pieces of spot removal that was available in the format at the time. So Smashing Ground takes care of the Dark Magician of Chaos. He's then enabled to normal summon Kaiku, attack for 1800, banish some of the threats out of House of Champs' graveyard. That way he isn't able to get them back with any of the slew of revival spells that are available to House of Champs, being Premature Burial, Monster Reborn, and the like. And now we are just able to have play go back to House of Champs here, and we're going to see how he is going to navigate this particular board state. Looks like House of Champs is just going to set a card and pass. Play goes back to Sam. He's just going to swing over with this Kaiku over Shining Angel. Shining Angel will get its effect, but now we're going to see DD Warrior Lady that can at least go toe-to-toe with the Kaiku at the cost of some of House of Champs life points. But House of Champs has the card advantage here, and back in old Yu-Gi-Oh, card advantage was everything. And we're just going to see a change of heart, normal summon of Sinister Serpent, and that is more than enough for lethal. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to a game number 3.
Wow, that is just so impressive. I mean, while certainly cards like Painful Choice would be breaking the game because they can send really powerful monsters with graveyard effects, even something as benign as sending a whole bunch of cards that you can recur with your spell recursion was enough to break the game back then.
So Sam is going to go first here. He's just going to T-set and pass. John's going to start things off with a Graceful Charity here. Again, one of the strongest cards with the Serpent. So Sinister Serpent going to recur back to the hand on the next standby phase. So it's basically like you don't even lose a card. Talk about these old school combos. Also going to get rid of Tribe Infecting Coronavirus here. And Harpy's Feather Duster also, in addition to all of that, we're going to blow away Sam's Sakuretsu armor. Funny enough, no one would believe that a battle trap just destroy one attacking monster was meta, but this was one of like the defining cards back in the day.
Oh wow, and a set Sangan you get with the DD Warrior Lady. What a fantastic hit. A Delinquent duo in main phase 2. This is just as good as it gets.
And so we're going to get heavy Storm hit out of the hand. Sam going to opt to send Brain Control to the graveyard too. Both players a little bit low on resources here. John up a single card, but now plays back to Sam here. We're going to see if he can capitalize, and it looks like he's just going to set one and pass.
Again, because so many of the powerful cards in this format are spells and traps, sometimes you end in scenarios where you don't really have access to monster cards. Blind MST, oh wow, what a frustrating position to be in. MST into Call of the Haunted with, I think, no targets in the grave.
When was the last time you saw that happen, Joseph?
Sooner than I'd like to admit. We're going to add the Serpent back to the hand in standby phase. Just a fantastic way to recur advantage. And knowing that Sam doesn't have any monsters, it's a great way to set up for something like a Monarch on the following turn if you've got it.
Yeah, so House of Champs just going to set one and pass here. Again, you're going to see a lot of these slower plays here, but it can escalate rather quickly if any of these players get some of these powerful cards. There's a cross out, so that's going to equalize things. So Serpent being taken out, and now we're going to see a normal summon Spirit Reaper. Whoa. This is so big because now we're going to see not only 300 damage get taken on John's side, but that's not important. What's important is that if it inflicts battle damage, John will have to discard a card at random. There goes Kaiku.
That's a good one. That is a good one to get rid of. Of course, this card can't be destroyed by battle. If a targeting effect targets it, it is destroyed at resolution. And if you are in a scenario where you can't dump your entire hand, it can easily get out of control.
And so Sam's going to attempt to go for another Spirit Reaper hit here. That's going to be met with Mirror Force. John is not having any of that. And now we're just going to see a pass from Team Samurai X1 here. John just going to draw and set another card and pass. Not really much going on here right now. Both players seem to be out of gas for the time being. But that Spirit Reaper would have been putting in a ton of work had House of Champs not had that Mirror Force to potentially stave off anything. Here comes a Cyber Dragon, though. And that's going to hit into a Magician of Faith. Oh, no. There's so many good spells he could have picked.
Yeah, Graceful Charity is the obvious pick. The others are Spell and Trap Wipers and a duo that's likely never going to be online again.
Okay, so Graceful Charity now from House of Champs. Team Samurai X1 did set another card in the back row here. We're going to pitch DD Warrior Lady and Dark Magician of Chaos. Heavy Storm is going to clean up the back row here. And so there goes a Dust Tornado, so that wasn't really too much of a threat. Anyway, and Raigeki for the Cyber Dragon, and ending with his last card in hand being a set. Had to pretty much use his whole hand just to deal with that board, but we'll see if that set monster is good enough.
1,000,000% that's Morphing Jar.
No, it's not. It's a Magician of Faith, but that's still pretty good. Yeah, I don't think you can really complain too much here. So we're going to get Raigeki back. John just wanting to just equalize the board here, it looks like. TeamSamuraiX1 going to set another card and pass here. This is so exciting. Both players on such low resources here. Raigeki going to take out the Kaiku. John just going to set one and pass. Oh my god.
I am so tense right now. There are so many massive blowout cards and so few cards that actually put pressure on your opponent. Shining Angel is likely good enough.
Ooh, hits into a Dekoichi, though. Dekoichi on flip summon just allows the player to draw a card. A very good card back in the day, so it effectively replaces itself. So TeamSamuraiX1 didn't really lose too much advantage here, and actually is up on card advantage for the time being. Here comes the third Kaiku, I believe, but there's a Ring of Destruction pre-errata from House of Champs, so both players going to take 1,800 damage. Shining Angel is going to be free to swing in here. Sam going to set another card before passing. John's the aggressor here. Sam needs to find a way to deal with this Shining Angel and fast.
Yeah, but you really can't commit to more monsters on field. You know, you gotta be scared of torrentials, of mirror forces. You see 2-7 in the back row, there's only so many things they could be. It's a scenario where, yes, you are the beatdown, but you're going to have to beat down by taking as few in-game actions as possible.
So Sam's going to set another card and pass. We're going to see what John does here. Uh-oh, we're going to the graveyard. We're banishing.
Oh, no.
What does he have? BLS in defense mode. This is to clearly play around Mirror Force, but that's going to be immediately hit with Torrential Tribute, and rightfully so. BLS, one of the most terrifying cards of these formats. Just a complete game ender in most instances. So House had to take his chance there, but unfortunately did play into that Torrential. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Both players still have a sizable life total, but like you said, Joseph, anything can happen.
Yeah, certainly very, very happy to get the Blackluster Soldier out of the game. It's one of the very few actually strong monsters in decks this old. If I'm House of Champs, I'm still happy that that Magician of Faith went to the graveyard without activating its effect, despite the fact that it cost my whole board to do so.
One thing to also mention, too, is that priority existed back in the day. So what you were able to do was, typically in modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, Blackluster Soldier would hit the field, and your opponent would have the chance to use Torrential before BLS would use its effect. However, back in the day, you could declare priority and use the effect of BLS before Torrential would even activate. So in this instance, what we actually saw was the Sangan getting banished and the Torrential resolving fully.
I think it was the Magician of Faith as the BLS banished target, and the Torrential is CL2, destroying it as a result. But a ton of scenarios in which it would have been much, much better to be holding priority, which of course is why they did it.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And it was Magician Effect, you were right. I just saw Sangan banished, and I just I got that messed up in my head. So thank you for correcting me. Mystical Space Typhoon going to take out this Return from the Different Dimension, which wasn't really looking too good for Sam right now anyway. He just has that Sangan banished, but that is an absolute game ender. And Forceful Sentry just going to reduce Sam's hand to nothing. And now both players are going to be in a top-decking war. Revealing the Jinzo, this is going to be, oh my god, this could be anyone's game here.
Yeah, I mean, not activating Return from the Different Dimensions, completely understandable, but wow, the punish. Now we're just both top-decking, and House of Champs is playing cards like Mirage of Nightmare that just plus them to infinity. Oh no, going to the graveyard to banish things again. Is this a Chaos Sorcerer?
No, it's a Chaos Emperor Dragon, though, and this is pre-errata. Oh my god, what an unbelievable top deck after this sequence of events leading up to this point. We're not going to be using the effect, though. We just want to swing in for that 3,000, and it looks like that's going to connect. That has probably got to be one of the most terrifying things to be staring down with such few resources at your disposal.
Oh, yeah. So its effect isn't on summon. Like Blackluster Soldier, it's once per turn, and burning your opponent out of the game is something that it seems like is too much for Sam to overcome.
So that is it. House of Champs will advance to the top 8 of the YugiTuber Grand Championship 2020. If this is an omen of things to come, this tournament is going to be wild.
God, I miss this type of Yu-Gi-Oh! I enjoy modern Yu-Gi-Oh! I appreciate the game, but wow. 20 turns of top deck war really does bring a tear to my eye.
Absolutely. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next match.